Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today's episode, we're going to be diving into what it really means to choose faith over fear, especially when life feels uncertain and pressure is heavy. The climate in the world nowadays is just very fear driven with the news, social media feeds, just everywhere you look. It's very driven by fear. Not much positivity being spread. You open up the newspaper, it's usually this person got arrested, the current climate of the political system in America, and we're really just going to shift our focus to the faith aspect of it. So in Isaiah 41:10, he says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." And really, it's just telling you to let go and let God handle the situation. Don't put all of your focus and attention into the fleshly world. Don't get wrapped up in a political party or a political agenda. Just the clientele of the world, and just have faith in the Lord that He will see you through.
Yeah, a lot of the times in our day-to-day activities, like you said, we're just bombarded with negativity, with fear, with things that are meant to get a rise out of us emotionally. And when you use your faith as sort of an anchor, it's a good way to ground yourself and bring yourself back to the present, because we're pulled in so many different ways every day, and our algorithms know exactly what to put in front of us to pull our attention away from God, away from our families, away from working on ourselves. So I like to look at faith as the anchor and a good way to refocus yourself and to turn off all that noise. So, because when you're looking at the neurobiology of fear, you're activating your amygdala, and that's kind of our brain's alarm system. That's what triggers our fight versus flight versus freeze. And even though it is very helpful in like dangerous situations, it's very harmful when we chronically engage it by anxiety and uncertainty.
Yeah, you already have so many things fighting for your attention, and to continually add more things to what your body is already trying to, like you said, fight, flight, or freeze, and opening up a social media algorithm or turning on the news, you're just adding something to that whole list of things to be stressed about. Fear really thrives when we focus on the things that we can't control and that are unknown. When we focus on faith, it redirects our attention to the word that has been true for many, many 100 years. So when we feel anxious, there's a verse on that. When you feel depressed, there's a verse on it. And when you turn on the news, like I've said before, it's not going to be, oh, here's what great thing happened in your community today. It's this person did this, this is what's happening. And you easily start to fixate on it. And typically, most people aren't going to rise to the occasion and fight it.
Yeah, one of the things when I'm working with individuals on trying to essentially, fix their algorithm is that sometimes you have to just use new accounts and create a new account and look at the positive things, whether you're looking up and following individuals who are preaching the word of God, they're doing the hobbies that you like, they're doing maybe mental health stuff that you can learn from. Stop going to those creators that are putting that stuff that you're talking about in front of you. There's just so many creators out there that are taking this stuff from the news and they're just ramping it up to 1,000 and putting that right on YouTube and right on in front of your face. And sometimes it's hard to fix that algorithm and refocus your life if that stuff is just in your face constantly.
Yeah, and choosing faith isn't denying that the fear doesn't exist.
Right.
It's just reminding you to focus that God is bigger on whatever is causing that fear. And like you said, there's a million social media creators that all they do is push the agenda and they fearmonger. It's what can I get people mad at today, and how can I get more views?
Yeah, I find that individuals who really want to kind of de-stress and distance themselves from stuff like that, it takes practice and it takes time. But as they start weeding those things out of their feeds and out of their life, their mood improves. And especially when you insert faith as your anchor and you use things like prayer, meditation, scripture, and worship, see, that's going to engage your parasympathetic nervous system, which is going to promote regulation, stillness, clarity, and it's just going to quiet all that noise.
Yeah, and you really become what you consume.
Yes.
And if you are on social media listening to a pastor that's truly in the word and not pushing an agenda, or to stay in Bible verses instead of politics and reality TV shows and what's the current gossip, you'll notice that your thought pattern really changes. And it's pretty quick too. I mean, if you are constantly consuming positive content, it's going to make you a more positive person.
Yeah, one thing I see is when individuals make that decision to turn away from negativity, whether it's family, friends, work, or just a lifestyle. Some people live a negative lifestyle where that's all they consume, that's all they input and that's all they output. But when they take time and decide, I want to be positive in my life. And when you make that separation and that decision to turn away from that negativity, you find that when that negativity comes in, it feels like it's turned to 1,000 when really it's not. It's the same negativity at the same level for the most part that you've been dealing with, but you're just looking at it through a different lens. You're looking at it from a life that you're trying to live of positivity, and that negativity can creep back in, and it's a constant battle to try to live that positive life when that negativity is just trying to pull you back in.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too where it seems like when you are constantly consuming the negative stuff, it changes your thought process and it becomes, what if this happens to me? What if this comes to my city? And we spend hours on hours preparing for what ifs that typically never happen.
Yeah, and when you start to live in this environment of fear, the result is just going to be negative thought patterns. It's what if I fail? What's the worst that's going to happen? And it just consumes all of your energy, all of your thought processes, and creates anxiety. It distracts you from the positive things in your life. It distracts you from God, your family, and you start to look at everything just through this negative lens.
Yeah, and that a lot of that stuff causes anxiety to creep in really quick because it's just consuming your mind. And anxiety really can control you real fast. Just grabs a hold of you, it really just wraps its arm around your throat
Mm-hmm.
and consumes you and chokes you. And you just have to surrender to the anxiety and start focusing on faith and really let God be in control of it. Because there's a real peace that comes to your life when you are no longer letting fear to creep in. And once you start to realize what a true inner peace is like, just coming from the word and focusing on the word, you start to spread it and you can start to help others with it. Philippians 4:7 says, "In the peace of God, which surpasses all the understanding, will guard your hearts and minds of Christ Jesus." Peace is just, I would say it's priceless.
Mm-hmm.
Just to walk day to day activities with a sense of peace and not having anxiety, not having a worry in the world because you realize that you're not in control.
Yeah, one of the things I like to stress is a lot of people, I mean, me included, you like to focus on things that you can't fix. And it's good to just take a second, ask yourself, is what's bothering me something that I can affect change in? So if say you've got a boss at work that is completely out of touch, they are asking you to do things that are going to make more work for you. They're not going to push the company forward because they just don't know what they're doing. And no matter how you approach them or what you say to them, even if you present them with logical um, arguments and data and they still don't listen to you, then at that point, it's going to be frustrating, but you can't affect change. You
No.
can't make them see logic, and you can't make them do the right thing. And a lot of times we just sit there and ruminate on it because it's like you see things so clearly and have common sense, but they're just not in the same ballpark as you.
Yeah, and like when that type of scenario you're talking about, you have to remind yourself that it is the owner's company. And if they're not open to an outside source helping guide their company, you're never going to win that argument with them.
Absolutely.
You just have to let them essentially take that loss on the chin and make them come to the realization that you might have been right. And the same thing comes in your day-to-day life. You can't expect the non-believers to look at the world through a faith-filled lens.
Right.
Because all they know is the fleshly desires, the fleshly world, and they have no inner dialogue with God that teaches them right from wrong.
Yep.
I mean, we look at the current agenda of the world right now with everything that's going on, and it's a lack of fatherhood in the home, a lack of God in the house, and it's just a lack of discipline in the world. Everything is a slap on the wrist, a participation trophy. And if you're a believer, you know what's right from wrong and you stand up for it. But the people that don't have that think they're doing good. They're a part of a cause. They're a part of a belief system.
Yeah, and you can't expect them to fall in line or to even understand where you're coming from. That's a battle that you just shouldn't even engage in.
Yeah, it's one of those things where typically I avoid talking politics with anybody because most of the time you're not going to change their opinion on anything.
Yeah.
They believe what they believe, and no matter how good your argument is or how factual it is, they've already believed what they believe, and it's going to take them to want to change to think differently.
Absolutely.
And that goes for both sides of it. It goes for the far right, the far left, and everything in between. They have to have their own inner dialogue that makes them want to change their thought process.
Yeah, and I see that a lot with individuals who, I mean, like I mentioned, individuals who decide to stop being negative and they want to improve their life and live a more positive, focused life. Individuals who are a part of their family system or community who they interact with that are used to them being negative or even siding with them in a negative manner or just have this interaction with them where it's just negative back and forth.
Yeah.
When that individual starts to look at life and act from a place of like positivity, those individuals just can't comprehend it because they expect you to be negative and they expect you to side with them and they expect a certain response from you. And when you don't give that to them, they can double down.
And it's really hard for people to accept that people can change.
Yeah.
And that goes for every aspect, from a negative mindset person to a positive mindset, no faith to full of faith, somebody that's addicted to no longer addicted and thriving in life. People always see the person that they met and they have a hard time adapting to the new version of that person.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing. Like I talked to a few people I know that are fully recovered addicts, and they continue to label themselves as an addict. And I remind them, like, you've been clean for 10 years. You're not an addict anymore. You have to let that title go so you can stop thinking of yourself as that. You're a changed person. Celebrate the change, celebrate the win, and let that title go, because a title can really consume a person.
Yeah, when you're just consumed in fear and live in fear, then it's all those wins that you don't notice. You reframe them or just completely ignore them, discount them, and you just let that fear drive your life rather than looking at what you've accomplished, looking at the things that you have in life that are value added rather than things that are trying to bring you down.
Yeah, and when you have had, we'll just stick from the negative mindset to a person that's realized if they live life a little bit more positively and they approach things more positively, people are going to have a hard time adjusting to the new version of you if they ever do. But you are still looking at life through a positive lens. And maybe that person that can't accept the change in you just needs to see themselves out of your life. Because
Yes.
maybe they were part of the problem.
Right.
And once you surround yourself with more people that celebrate the new version of this positive person, you're surrounding yourself with the right people. Your friend groups, your communities should change as you change for constant growth.
Right. And there's that awkward time, in that transition where you've got one foot in this new life, maybe with individuals who are faith based, more positive, and then you've got your other foot in the life that you were trying to escape, where there's individuals who are negative, whether it's, in their thinking processes, in just their behaviors. And it could be hard to not let that pull you back in. It's important to challenge your distorted thinking with like truth based reframing and grounding exercises, and reminding yourself that, I don't have to be perfect in being positive, but I'm doing the best I can, and not letting those individuals pull you back into that activity. And like you said, sometimes you just have to cut people out. And a lot of that happens naturally because you just stop communicating with them.
Yeah.
They realize that you've changed and you're not going to be who you used to be. So then maybe they lose interest in communicating with you as well. Sometimes you have to put your foot down because they just don't want to give you up as far as who they, knew you to be. And you just have to, sometimes you got to do hard cutoffs.
Yeah, and you really see that in the church with addicts because they rather go through rehab or go spend time in jail, and then they become a part of a church with a Celebrate Recovery group, and then they run across somebody that they were a part of that addiction with, and that person either tries to wrangle them back into that addiction, or they try to belittle them to make them feel essentially dumb for letting go of that addiction and not being a partier anymore.
Absolutely.
And I've witnessed many people within the church that kind of become a loner because they know that they're trying to break that cycle that they were a part of, and then eventually they do get a new community.
Yeah, but in that in between time, it's easy to just let that fear creep in and that loneliness creep in, and it's easy to second guess yourself when you're trying to make that transition.
Yeah, it's the constant pursuit is what it really is, like reminding yourself that this is what I want to become, this is what I'm gonna become,
Right.
spending time in the word to instill that in you and taking the steps.
Yeah, it's important when we have those like anxious and fearful thoughts to use both self-awareness and scripture to help ground yourself.
Yeah, constantly staying planted but still growing.
Yeah, you have to stay vigilant and you got to do the work.
Yeah, and I've had this conversation with many people that I know that the devil will knock on your door once he sees that he lost you.
Yep.
And with the addiction side of it, once he sees that you don't have that addiction and you are alone in your apartment because you don't have many friends at that moment, that's when he's going to knock.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just going to be once, it's not going to just be twice. You just can't answer that door and let the devil win again.
Mm-hmm.
Stay in the word. And I always joked like God does control the church, but the devil still knows how to get in. The devil's also a believer.
Mm-hmm.
So you just can't let him creep in and steal you back.
Yeah, and that's something that I tell my clients is once you make this change to just to live a better life, that negativity and those things that you're turning away from, you're not always away from them. It's this, this idea is like we're all one paycheck away from living on the street, and
Yeah.
you're always one step ahead of that, but it's right there behind you. And it's that self-awareness, the constant vigilance, and the constant work in bettering yourself, it's going to keep you one step ahead of, of Satan, of those vices, of that negative thinking. So all that stuff you're trying to better yourself from, don't live in this delusional world that it's not still there.
Use it as momentum.
Right.
Especially since you've already overcame it,
yeah,
and you knew how to beat it.
Right. And you should use it as motivation to not slack and to constantly keep working on yourself.
Yeah. And that's one thing that you and I have talked on, that faith isn't built by action. It's not just a belief. So it's constantly being in the practice of faith, the practice of betterment, the practice of self-awareness and building your self-esteem and self-confidence.
Yeah.
Faith is really an action. It's a title because you walk in faith, but it's an action. And using that action as a weapon and as a defense mechanism really protects you.
Yeah, and I find
go ahead.
Oh, so I was going to say that, I find that sometimes I'll get so focused on the grind, my schedule, what I have to do, what's coming up, what's past, that I'll find myself I just have this emptiness and this just feeling like I'm standing on an island alone. And it's like, I haven't prayed in a couple days, maybe. I haven't read scripture in a couple days. I haven't even just stopped to thank God for, where I'm at in my life and the work I've done. And it's like, oh, that's why I feel so weird. That's why I feel so alone and so just cut off from living life.
Yeah, it's right before you and I go in to record this episode. Like, I was on vacation for 5 days. I had a lot to prepare for vacation. I completely unplugged while I was gone. And then I come back and it's like, all right, I've got 5 days of catching up to do. I've got all these things I need to do. I need to mow. I need to go to the grocery store. I need to do laundry. And my wife came home from the gym and I was getting ready to mow. And she's like, do you have enough time to do everything? And I was like, I'm only one man. Like, I have to do it because I'm the only one that can do it.
Right.
And I took a step back after I said that. And I'm like, by the power of Christ, I'm going to get this done.
Yeah.
I have a lot of stuff to do today. And it's 5:19. We were planning on recording this and I was on right on time. But I didn't do it alone. There's no way I mowed my yard in 25 minutes, but today I did.
Yeah.
Another way that constant action of, like you said, if you take away 5 days of talking to God and not praying and not being in your devotional, you kind of feel like, hey, something's missing.
Yeah.
What am I missing right now that's causing me to feel this way?
Yeah, and it's important to take inventory. Like, how is my relationship with my wife? Am I keeping up with the things I have to do at home? Am I keeping up with my workout routine? Am I keeping up with my meal plan? You just got to go through these check boxes. Like, I'm doing everything that brings me joy. Everything's going well. Why am I feeling so empty and disconnected? And it's like, oh, I really haven't been giving God any attention lately.
Yeah, that's the best way is constantly giving him thanks for the things that you do have.
Right. And as you were talking about, coming back home and all those things you have to do, whether it's groceries, mowing, all those things that are haves to do just, in daily life. Sometimes if you just take a step back and actually thank him for those things, because you have a lawn that you can mow, because you have the money that you can go to the store to buy groceries, that you have your health, that you had the 5 days to go on vacation with your wife. It's not looking at it as like negatives, like, oh, I have to do this, I've got so much to do. No, you get to do it.
Yep.
Because every day you wake up is a blessing.
Absolutely. And we talked a couple episodes ago, like, most of the time, if you live in the United States, you would be astronomically rich according to the scripture.
Yeah.
I have a house. I have multiple beds, multiple TVs, a computer, cell phones, land. I have a lot to consider as a blessing, and it's very easy to look at it as a chore or a task.
Mm-hmm.
But there's people that don't even know where they're going to sleep tonight or
Yeah.
what they're going to eat or if they're going to wake up because they're laying on their deathbed. It's like you said, it's changing your mindset. I get to do this. I'm allowed to do this. I'm blessed to be able to do all this.
Yeah. When I find my clients are in this mindset of, I haven't done my homework. I haven't made any progress. Work distracted me. I'm sorry I didn't get to this stuff. It's like, whoa, let's, hold on. Let's take a step back and look what you have done. It's like you're coming to every session that's scheduled. You show up with intent. You show up and acknowledge any shortcomings that you might be having. You are aware of what you have and haven't done. You're doing the work. And it's like, it's easy to have fear and anxiety creep in and to look at this, where you're currently at in life and go, it's not where I want to be. I have all these aspirations. It's like, no, let's take a step back and look at what you do have. Like, you have your health, you have the motivation to come to therapy, you have all these skills, you've done all this work. I mean, that's quite incredible. Like, just because you had an off day, an off week, like, you still showed up here, didn't you?
Yeah, and that's a conversation I have with my fitness clients all the time is we're not going to celebrate what you didn't do. We're going to celebrate a win because
Yeah.
each person has one thing to be excited about from their journey this last week, especially when it comes to like my fitness clients. Even if our plan says that you're supposed to work out 5 days a week and you made up 4, we're going to celebrate that. You showed up 80% of the time.
Right.
That's a win. You might have gained a pound this week on the scale. Guess what? You followed your nutrition plan 100%.
Right.
That's a win.
Exactly.
And it's the same way for your clients. You showed up for every session that we had this month. That to that person, it might seem so minuscule, but as a coach or as a therapist, that's huge.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm genuinely happy when they show up. And a lot of individuals, they try to apologize for, for not doing stuff or whatnot. And it's like, listen, let me tell you, and they, they won't want to disappoint me, whatever it may be, but it's like, you're not disappointing me because, and I give them a laundry list of the things that they're doing right and put things back in perspective and ground them. It's like, let's not be negative about this. Let's look at the positives. And yeah, maybe you didn't do your journaling this week or you didn't do some of the homework I gave you, but you're aware of that. And every other time you normally do it. So let's not harp on that. Let's get back to the point and let's get back to work and keep going forward.
Yeah, it would be nothing for that client of yours who had to do my homework this week. And instead of telling you that, hey, I'm just going to cancel this appointment. I'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Right.
No, you showed up.
Yep.
That's the biggest part is showing up.
Right. And not just in therapy, but if people are showing up in your life, what's the point in focusing on what they haven't done? Because all that's going to do is create an environment where they don't want to show up.
Yeah. And that's like we talked about. That's where fear kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
And walking with a exuberation is the best way. Like, I'm showing up. I'm going to straight up tell my therapist, hey, I didn't do the homework today, man.
Yep.
I'm here. Can we start fresh and try again in 2 weeks?
Yeah. And it's like, I put more weight into honesty and openness than any of that homework you didn't do. So the fact that you showed up and you were honest and open about not doing it, one, that helps me direct what we're going to talk about and go about things because I'm not working with information that is false. And it creates a relationship where we're open and honest. And that's what's more important to me than anything. And that can be applicable to life in every other relationship you have.
Yeah, and if the client, whether one of your clients or mine, if they're honest with themselves instead of trying to sugarcoat or give an excuse why they didn't do it, that's a huge mental win.
Yes.
Because they have the realization and the self-realization that, hey, I didn't do what was expected of me.
And it's that responsibility. I'm big on responsibility.
Yeah.
And if you come in and you're honest with me and you tell me what you did or didn't do, I mean, I'm more proud of that. You know, that's a big step. It's harder. It's a lot harder to admit your faults and to accept responsibility for your shortcomings than it is to come in and say, "Hey, I did everything perfectly. I'm awesome." I mean, that's great, but it takes a bigger person to accept responsibility for their shortcomings.
Yeah, and with my end of it, I have a coaching app. I know if you did your workout.
Right.
I know if you logged in that day.
Yep.
So if you're going to be honest and say, hey, I didn't work out this week, I know because I saw it Monday. I saw it Tuesday.
Right.
My app told me that it's been 7 days since you logged in. Like, I'm aware that you didn't do it. I know you don't have your workouts memorized to that extent. I know you don't have your meal plan memorized to that extent. But thank you for being honest to me and letting me know instead of saying, hey, I didn't lose weight this week. Do you know what's going on? Yeah, you didn't do what was expected of you.
Right.
And I can't get you results. Jacob can't get you the results unless you do the work. And
Right.
if you're honest with yourself that, hey, coach, or hey, I didn't do what was expected of me this week, can we try again? That really breaks down a wall between client to coach or client to therapist communication.
Right. And for me, it's like you taking that step to be honest and open, like that creates a better bond and that creates a lot more respect because our time is precious. And I don't like to take for granted that you're taking the time out of your day to drive X minutes to see me. You're spending an hour to see me, an hour of your day, whether you're missing work, juggling your schedule, scheduling somebody else to pick up your kids from school. It's a lot of work to come to therapy, and it's a lot of work to do your workout. And we make a lot of concessions and to get these things, scheduled in our life. And I don't take that for granted. And I appreciate individuals who juggle things around to fit me in.
Like you said at the beginning of this podcast, we have a lot of things begging for our time, our attention, and from your perspective, they hit some type of wall or something to where they needed some help with their mental health, or with me, they're uncomfortable in their body. You're taking on a big amount of responsibility to try to better yourself. And as a coach, and I'm sure for you as a therapist, we want you to get your most out of it for your money and for your time.
Right. And this idea is like me as a provider, if I'm the one creating fear and anxiety because you didn't do something and you're coming in and you're picking that up from me or getting that from me, then I'm doing it completely wrong.
Yeah.
I'm if you have fear or anxiety about not doing your stuff before you come into session, and that leads you to lie, leads you to fabricate that you did something, then me as a professional, I'm doing it wrong. And I take extra effort to make sure that I don't project that feeling onto individuals, because coming to therapy or going to a workout, it's hard enough to get your motivation to go do that because both of them are work, mental and physical for what you do, and mental for me, because you're coming in, you're going to do work, and it's not going to be easy.
No, it's very exhausting.
Right.
Especially like when it's self-reflection or dealing with the past trauma. Like,
right.
That's already going to create enough anxiety to go down that avenue. And I'm sure in your practice that you modified the way you handle people to alleviate more anxiety. You're trying to make this process as relatively easy on them as possible to get them the help they need.
Yeah, it's like one of the things when you do scheduling. Like I try to be as accommodating as possible because I don't want you to say, I've got therapy. Ugh, I got to, it's such a hassle. So if if I have any ability to make it easier and to lessen that burden on you, I'm going to do it. And I've got my hours, and if I can squeeze you in or fit you in at a time that works the best for your schedule, I'm going to do it, because I don't want you to go, oh, it's, lunchtime. I got therapy at 4 o'clock and I got to rush around and do all this stuff. No, we're going to do 5 o'clock because you need that extra hour to maybe pick your kid up from school, run an errand. And if I can make that work, I'm going to make it work.
Yeah, and with my coaching, I've had clients say, "Hey, can you like schedule what days of the week I'm going to work out?" I always say no. You have enough going on in your life. The last thing you need is for me to tell you that you need to go to the gym on Tuesday because that's what day I scheduled for you. I don't know your schedule.
Right.
And to be frank, I know how fast plans change for people. If you've got kids at home and, hey, my husband's at home on Tuesdays, I can work out on Tuesdays, guess what? Somebody's going to get called in to work that day.
Yeah.
And I'm going to alleviate that anxiety for that check-in on that weekend by saying, hey, you got 5 days this week. You do them when you need to do them.
Right.
If you have to double down and do 2 workouts on one day or just not do one, awesome. I'm not going to tell you that you have to be at the gym Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
It's alleviating the anxiety and just having the ability to maneuver yourself.
Yeah. When it comes to faith and coping skills and exercises and skills, like, it grows like a muscle, and you have to practice it, and it strengthens through that repeated and intentional action. And I like to put things in perspective with individuals when we start to work on something new, that I don't expect you to be perfect and get it right every time. And I have to catch myself sometimes because I lay everything out so methodically with expectations, and I have to stop and go, listen, I I don't even expect you to get this right the first time. If you just try it, and even if you're in a situation, you go, oh, I can use this exercise right now, that's a win. And it's with that repeated practice and repeated thinking about it that you're just going to develop that muscle, and it's going to go from being a chore to being just a part of your daily routine, and it's just going to be what you do behaviorally.
100%. And when it becomes a routine, the anxiety goes down because you know your agenda, what your plans are for that day, and you can adjust and maneuver as needed.
Right. If you're using like your faith and spirituality and meditation and prayer as your anchor when you're dealing with fear and anxiety and the unknown, it's going to be hard at first, and it's because it's not natural. It's not what you're used to doing. But as you do it over and over and over again, you're going to get better at it. It's going to become natural. And if you take a step back, you're going to see that your anxiety and fear are just less and less. It's not going to go away. It's not going to, you're not going to solve the problem of fear and anxiety, because that's life, but you're going to be better at mitigating those symptoms and those feelings.
Again, a final thought I had regarding especially that is fear and anxiety. They're going to knock at your door. The devil's going to knock at your door, but you don't have to let them move in with you.
Right.
You can open that door up, tell them to get out. They're not welcome anymore. And the practice of faith is really the key that helps us maintain our peace, our strength, being present with God. And when you continue to choose faith over fear, that peace really builds within you. It's one thought at a time, one prayer at a time, and just that constant pursuit of relieving the stress out of your day and having faith with you.
Yeah, and as you're talking about that, I'm thinking about when is the opportune time versus the inopportune time to do that type of stuff. And I like to tell people that if you're going to deploy something like a skill or an exercise or prayer, do it when you're the most uncomfortable. Do it when you're numb. Do it when you're anxious. Do it when you feel alone, because that's when you need it the most. And it's like with working out. Like, I might wake up and not want to work out, but that's exactly when I need to do it.
And you know as well as I do that true growth of self happens outside your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
If you continue to stay comfortable in every aspect of your life, There's no growth there.
Mm-hmm.
I talk all the time to my men's group in young adult ministry about, I call it leveling up. It's, you should constantly want to pursue to be greater. I'm 38 years old. At 48, I shouldn't be the same person I am today.
Right.
That's that to me. That's not living. That's just existing and getting through life.
Yep.
Living to die is what I really look at. It's like I need to better myself every single day.
Yep.
So that was our final thought on this. We are switching our podcast to a bi-weekly podcast going forward to kind of give us more time to prepare and give you guys a little break in between the week from our podcast. We want to continue to bring more quality content for you. So thank you for tuning in. I just remind you that you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify at Sword and Soul Podcast. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Hey everyone, my name is Jacob. I'm a licensed therapist and co-host of the Sword and Soul podcast, where we explore mental health through a faith-based lens. This podcast offers spiritual encouragement and mental health education for informational purposes only. It's not a substitute for therapy or medical advice, and listening does not create a therapist-client relationship. If you are in crisis, please call 911 or present to your local emergency room. The full disclaimer and a list of mental health resources are available in the show notes. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show.